Good morning. Welcome to Business Lens on Rapid TV. I am Faith Daffa Joseph, and as usual, we get to talk about what is going on in the world of business, the economy, and finance. And today, we have some interesting headlines to look forward to, talking about the fact that oil markets are threatening a strike. That means that we might start to see some cues again. I do not know why they think that this is the best way to resolve whatever issues there are, but that's what they're threatening. It's been a while that we have seen cues, right? Are we going to have a comeback? So we'll talk about that during the show. And OPEC is saying that they're going to increase production levels. What does that mean for Nigeria? Especially, we get to also look at that. And then the president had said before that Nigeria was no longer borrowing from local banks. But now there is a report about a further $1.7 million from the World Bank coming on before the end of the year. So what's up with that? We get to unpack all of this today on the show, and I do it with the help of my analyst, okay? Of course, Mr. Abiola from Key2 Markets. Always great to have you here.
It's good to be here, Fitz.
Okay, and of course, Mr. Daniel Efa, our financial global market analyst. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Fitz.
Okay, I hope everybody had a great weekend.
Fantastic.
All right, I had a weekend. I had a weekend. Okay, but we're here. So, but let's start with OPEC. Every time you have this sort of announcement by OPEC, it feels like good news for Nigeria, especially because we depend on oil revenues, even though our president is saying something different. But we'll get to that later. According to this, OPEC Plus is moving to boost the oil output by an additional 137,000 barrels per day in October. We have seen different cuts by OPEC along the line, but we also knew that they were going to increase production at some point. And for all producing countries, this should come up like good news, especially if you're able to meet your quota and exceed your target, which Nigeria seems to have started doing in recent months. Okay, so let's talk about what this means, for the global economy, basically. Considering everything is going on with Trump and the tariffs and all of that, and then where we are right now as well, and what that means for a country like Nigeria. Let me start with you, Daniel.
And so I think adding 135, even though it is little in the context of the entire production capacity of OPEC and its members, but it also signals the fact that I think OPEC has identified a price point, $65 per barrel range, as that price that everybody's satisfied with selling their crude, right? And so now it's a function of if you can pump more, right? If you've been pumping more before, they have to stop and allow those that have not been pumping as much, right? So of course, there are some countries in this list, right, in the OPEC members list that would really tilt towards high prices. They want $75-80 per barrel because they don't necessarily produce a whole lot. Case study Nigeria. But I think generally at this point, anybody that is struggling to do that is at a loss, right, really. So you would not ideally get crude oil prices to $80 per barrel anymore, or else we're going to push the global economy into another level of inflationary pressures that we don't need right now. So right now, it should be about maximizing supply if there is a need to, and ensuring that countries are able to make money from, $65-60 per barrel range. And I think that should be even the price point for majority countries for the nearest future, for the next half a decade at least, because we don't want, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you spin it, right, higher oil prices is a problem to the global economy. All right, you don't want lower oil prices is a problem to the oil producing countries. So let us stay at the $65 per barrel range, which is fine, and everybody can produce whatever they should produce. For Nigeria, I think the case is always, we are always caught up in between what we really want. Is it high prices or maximum supply, right? I think the era we are now, I think we want to do more supply because suddenly we have demand, both local and foreign, that now makes sense for whatever we are doing. So for us, we should be comfortable with this $65 per barrel, of course. If not for our budget predictions and location and forecasting and all, it should have been fine for us to have said crude oil prices are $60 per barrel for 2025, decent enough. and I just know that your targets would have been producing enough capacity to meet those.
But let's talk about the fact that increasing production in the world also means that you might get to that point where you have surplus. You know, do you think that we can get to the point where we have like an oil glut? Because if you are having OPEC start to, you know, increase output, you never know what can go on with Trump tomorrow. He can say, we're going to pump more. But there was something he said before, like, you know, pump baby or something like that. So we can have that happen again. And then, of course, the people who are not constrained by OPEC per se, I mean, like Russia, yes, they're OPEC plus, but they're not really constrained per se. So we might have an oil glut. And if we have a surplus, that means that pricing might also drop, right?
Well, I feel that this is the whole essence of OPEC, you know, being in existence, you know, to monitor and to regulate. But with what I'm seeing now, I think if there's going to be a decline in price due to whatever reason, it's going to be gradual. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's a lot of status quo everywhere. Even after what Trump said, you know, the leader of India came out and said, we will continue buying from Russia, you know. And so there's no heavy change in the dynamics around the world. But why I say decline is that the world is also trying and really pushing in reality to shift to alternative source of energy. And this is going to be having its effect, has started having effect and continue having an effect on the price of crude oil. What I think Nigeria should do, which is what we are doing, because what Nigeria just wants is money. You know, however the money comes from oil, we just want the money. So if it's for us to sell more or for the price to go up, I don't think it's really, I don't think whichever one is what bothers us. What bothers us is that we want to have as much money from crude oil as possible. And in this case, you see that compared to, let's say, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, production has kind of improved. Before, the reasons that were given was for oil theft, but I think that has been reduced to some level of, you know, at least lower than whatever we had before. So the watchword for Nigeria now, or the focus for Nigeria now, is to produce as much barrels per day as possible, because the thing is tricky. If you produce 1 million barrels today, you cannot roll over the remaining till tomorrow and say, oh, tomorrow I'm going to produce 2 million because I did not produce. You know, so you have to meet your quota per time so that you can get the most out of it. So the focus for Nigeria, I feel, is to produce as much as possible. And in the thing of the stuff of oil glut you're talking about, OPEC is going to do what they know how to do best to regulate. But if that happens, we might also be seeing lower prices. But anything about oil glut is going to be purely fundamental. Based on the technical analysis so far, I don't think that is coming up anytime soon.
Okay, so we'll see how that pans out. Let's come back home. Let's talk about what is happening with our oil marketers and Dangote. So I saw this story, I think it was yesterday, I saw the report, and in my head I'm like, how did we get here again? Okay, remember that, you know, Dangote had promised that it was going to get up, I think it was 450 or something, trucks, CNG trucks, 4,000 had to distribute, you know, petrol. And there had been that conversation about why is he getting involved in distribution? You know, he should just stay in his refinery business. I think Daniel also was part of people criticizing that.
Still part.
But we have seen that, you know, he also partnered with MRS and some other, you know, So now we knew marketers were complaining about that, you know, they're in this space. When Dangote is doing this, what he's doing is he's trying to create some sort of monopoly. Anyway, they have come up with talking about that again. In fact, IPMAN, that's the Independent Petroleum Marketers, they want to go on strike today. Okay. And then you have Petro1 also going on strike tomorrow. According to Petro1, they say that they want to go on strike because they want to fight against monopoly. Petro1 is a petroleum product retail outlet owners association. And it's not just them. Even Newpeng is going, so...
What monopoly?
Well, I'll explain it. So they say that Dangote and MRS getting into petrol distribution, that they're getting into the downstream, that it threatens the survival of IPMAN members, of Petro members, of Newpeng members. And so they want to fight this because, you know, this is taking work away from them. Job security is a problem here. And they're fighting against monopoly because if, you know, Dangote is allowed to continue to do this and it gets into distribution, you know, it's going to be taking business away from them. So that is, they say it poses a serious threat you know, to the survival of Ipman's members' business. Let me start with you.
A lot of strong words there. My single question is, when would we actually have fights that have to do with the Nigerian citizens? Because at the end of the day, all these fights are not really because you want to defend the average man on the streets. Everybody's fighting for what they will eat. So it's not about the people. Let that be very, very clear, first of all, because if it's about the people, you won't be talking about strike. Strike should be the last option that should never even be considered. But because this has never been about the Nigerian people, it's just about everybody struggling for their share of the cake. So for me, whatever will favor the Nigerian people is what I'm for. If Dangote is going to come into the downstream, involve himself in retailing it, and it's going to bring down the price, availability is going to be constant, then I'm all for it. You see, there's something I've noticed in African countries. There are a lot of things we waste our energy on that in 2025 shouldn't be wasting our energy on anymore. Number one is power. To an individual level, industry level, we waste so much energy on power. If you travel out, you go to the Western countries, go to other countries, even in Asia, you find out that people don't even think about power anymore. It's just there. It's just there. It's like an advert of, Rank Zeros.
It's like oxygen.
Days. Yeah, they said they want to bring their product to a state where they are like a chair that you don't think about. You don't touch and fiddle with you before sitting down. For you to know that it's always there, it's always dependable. So we should have moved beyond this, trying to create activity where there shouldn't be any form of activity. I don't think that is what we should be doing in 2025. We should have moved beyond this. Whatever is going to make the life of an average Nigerian better is what I'm for. So I don't really see the reason for this. And before now, as an association, they used to have monopoly. Now they are fighting a so-called, somebody that wants to come and monopolize, but they've always had the monopoly. Like whenever they say they want to go on strike, everybody is shaking and they feel good with themselves. Well, I feel they feel good. So now that we now have, another party, another entity trying to come into the downstream, and why I like this is because a lot of things that you've seen or that you've heard that they say is never possible, you will see that once you have competition, it suddenly becomes possible. A telecom company said per second is technically not possible until there was competition, then suddenly became possible. So for me, I am not in support of whether Dangote, I'm in support of a competition coming in to make sure that this thing is always that. Look at the queue for CNG. It doesn't make sense. I spoke to one of the drivers, he said there are times they queue for a whole 24 hours. I said, so how do you make money when you queue? Now it's practically in a week. I said, how long does it last you? Say a day. I said, okay, so that means you practically queue for like 3 days in a week. Then how do you make your profits? What exactly are you saving? And what is the profit margin at the end of the day? So anything that
reduce productivity.
Yes, you're working 4 days in a week, but you say you're making profit. Where's the profit? You're sleeping in filling stations. So at the end of the day, whatever will make the life of Nigerians better is what I'm after.
I mean, so here's the thing. For these marketers, right? I mean, they're not altruistic. The truth of the matter is that they are for profit, right? Yeah. So for them, this threatens their livelihood, threatens their profit, so they're fighting against it. But let's look at it from the competition point of view.
Let them not use us as pawns. Let them fight themselves. Why are you involving us? By going on strike, you are involving us. Fight whosoever, then take yourself to court. But don't involve us you are using us as pawns to settle your squabbles.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they feel like this is the best way to get their voice heard. Usually in Nigeria, a lot of people don't listen to you until you decide that you're downing tools. So it's always like
I'm downing my tool now. I'm leaving.
And you know that there are unions. Unions thrive on downing tools and threatening strike actions. It's what they do, unions, basically. So when you have NUPENG, which is, an association for like senior petroleum workers, and then you have Ipman and you have Petro, and they're all coming together and saying that this is going to threaten our livelihood, so we're downing tools. But here's the thing, I don't know if that is going to take any effect with Dangote, because even if you down tools and he gets 4,000 trucks and he works with MRS and a couple of other filling stations, he's still going to be able to distribute his stuff. So you are the one who is going to suffer for it. One of the arguments that they're making is that it's against the PIA Act that says that if you're involved in refining, you should not be involved in the downstream sector. So if you know that this is against the PIA Act, why don't you go to court? Why are you threatening a strike action? that she might actually lose, because if he rolls out 4,000 CNG trucks
and the roads are free and you guys are on
with
strike and
MRS,
he's supplying
he's going to
everybody.
supply people. Your strike action is not going to do anything. So who are they trying to get with this strike action? Is it the government to tell Dangote you can't do this? Or who are they trying to convince with the strike?
Okay, so this is the thing. Unions will always use strike as a mechanism to get themselves heard. And in this context, I think they just want the government's ears. They want maybe the NUPRC to step in, or the NMDPR to step in as mediators to solve the problem. However, this is where it gets tricky. The PIA did not expressly say you cannot distribute. In fact, the PIA, as part of license for crude oil refining, is that you have a wholesale license that also allows you to distribute your products. Now, this is where it gets also interesting, is the fact that the bodies that are going on strike, Dangote can have the trucks, 4,000 trucks, but if the Petron, which even the MRS in quotes are also part of, right, operators.
Yeah.
So if they also, except these particular filling stations that we are talking about that can sell,
Decide that they're not going to do it.
except that they're going to be out of the association that currently exists. If not, then Nigerians probably, if they actually go on with the strike as they are promised, Nigerians will actually practically have to queue in front of the Dangote truck to buy fuel. That is basically what it means. And this is what I've always been saying, that the Dangote coming in that aggressive, it was basically a show of force, a show of it was not a business. It was not a business move. It was just a bully move.
But you know,
why am I saying that? Why am I saying
now,
that? There's already a perception about the way he runs his business because of what he did, for example, with cement. There are some Nigerians that tell you Dangote killed other businesses in the cement sector, right, because of the way he operates, and that is why he is having this kind of rejection in quotes. If this refinery from the get-go was not a Dangote, maybe would have seen marketers partner with Dangote refinery to bring in petrol, maybe. But that aside, we are not in a business of perception right now, business of making money for them, making money, and Nigerians having petrol in their cars and their generators. Now, this is what will eventually end. They have to still sit down. This matter it will not, either way, nobody is right? Because if you're saying it's a law, you're not pushing that's not what the law says. It allows him to operate, right? He also is coming into a space, and you are basically coming in to buy the entire capacity of that market. The 4,000 trucks is in fact more than the existing number of trucks that we currently have. So that is you saying all of you 4,000 people, you are going home. That's what it means. And you cannot tell them that in a sector whereby they've always operated like a cabal for years, to say all of you are going home. They will definitely fight back, and that is what is happening with this. And this is why I keep saying, no matter how it goes, Nigerians will still be going to suffer, and government will have to still intervene. And that is what the associations are basically doing.
Let me talk about the fact that at the beginning, when Dangote started, before he even started to ramp up his production to get to this capacity, we know that before the end of the year, it's probably going to, go over the proposed capacity. There were marketers that were not buying from him.
Yes.
They'll rather import.
Yes.
They'll rather import than buy from him and distribute their imported fuel. And he kept talking about that. Well, you should actually focus on doing this, and he was talking about how there should be some sort of intervention by government. Now, if the government intervene with that and say, okay, it's a level playing field, everybody can compete, wherever you're going to get your fuel from, you can get it and sell it. Why are they trying to force him to not compete? Because here's the thing, if you will go buy fuel from some other place to distribute, why are you against him distributing it? Because you don't want to distribute his fuel anyway. So he's now like, you know what, I will find a way to distribute my fuel, and I'll give it to Nigerian people, and I'll partner with a few filling stations that are not like you people. Because one of the things that you had Petro and Zay was that and Ipman, they're not just protesting against Dangote, they're also protesting against MRS, a member of their group. To say that MRS and other filling stations partner with Dangote, they are trying to monopolize the markets, right? That's what they're saying. But you are the same marketers that refuse to buy from Dangote, you still will import, you still will sell your imported fuel. So it's not like, since you don't want to buy from me, you know what? It's fine. Import your fuel, distribute your fuel. But you see me, I will distribute to my own filling stations that Nigerians can buy from. How is that a problem?
I think one of the problems in this scenario, which is the truth, is that maybe the profit margin from buying from Dangote might not be as much as importing, and this is what I feel is the reason. If they're importing, maybe there might be some level of quality reduction, which would increase profit margin.
Yeah.
You know, but with Dangote, it might not be able to have that compromise, okay, which means that the price of the fuel will come at a certain level, and by the time they add their markup, it might not be as much. So we're still back to the conversation of money at the end of the day. Everybody's just fighting for, you know, their livelihood. But if they try to be, at least, let me use the word patriotic, the first thing we should look at, just like Daniel said when we were talking about the passport last week, is that if you go low and sell more, eventually the profit might meet up with if you go high and sell less. So why not find a way to put ego aside, put sentiment aside, and let's just discuss business. Look for a government mediator, bring Dangote to the table, bring the union to the table, and let's find a middle point. Because at the end of the day, I will still say it, Nigerians should be the first beneficiary of all these things. But now they've made it about themselves and not even Nigerians.
I mean, Dangote said it's about Nigerians, we'll see. Anyway, we need to go on a very, very quick break. When we return, we're going to look at a couple more headlines. The president says we're no longer borrowing, but is that true? Stay with Business Lens on Rapid TV. Keep it here. All right, welcome back. It's still Business Lens here on Rapid TV, and I still have my guests, you know, in the studio with me. That's Mr. Biel and, of course, Mr. Daniel. Still talking about the major headlines in the world of business, finance, and the economy. And, well, the Minister for Finance and the Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, he has said, you know, that states have received double the revenue since after subsidy removal. Now, this is not news, really, because we have seen that over time that a number of states, if you look at their FAC allocations, they get a lot more money. Now, has that translated for anything for the Nigerian people is another question entirely. According to you know, the minister, he was saying that, see, petrol subsidy had to go. It was gulping 2.5% of Nigeria's GDP. And so this had to happen to create or to restore fiscal balance. Those were his words. But now he's saying that the states have more money. They have double the kind of funds that they had before. They're able to provide their own contributions to all important area and others, quoting him. But has that reflected at all when you look at the output of the states? You know, so you have more money, more FAC allocations. Have you been able to provide more healthcare? Have you been able to provide, you know, more infrastructure? You know, have you been able to improve the security of your states? Those are questions that are left unanswered. And so we know that this is the fact, right? They have more money. In fact, the CBN governor complained that when you receive a FAC allocation, dollar rates shoot up because of you. You change your money, you do things like that. You know, has that translated for anything for the Nigerian people? Because this is supposed to be one of the benefits of fuel subsidy removal. We remove fuel subsidy, so that means that, you know, states have more money to do a lot of things. Are they doing anything?
I feel that, okay, this particular topic is borderline political, so I'll try and keep it, I'll try and be on the economic side. I think if we look at the structure of the country, the federal government, the state, and the local government, we'll find out that to a very large extent, the federal government is very vibrant. They are in every conversation. State government, not so much. Local government is totally absent. And this, I feel, is one of the issues, because if you look at the closeness of the government, tiers of government to the people, the local government is meant to be the closest. I should be able to walk into my councillor's office or my chairman's office and discuss with him and say, I have this idea, this farming thing and all that. But you find out that this do not even exist. There are some local governments in Nigeria that people only come when it's payday. You can go there and there's practically nothing. I'm not saying things that you can go and verify yourself. There are local governments
verify.
Yeah, there are practically nobody there. But at the end of the day, there are allocations going there, and there's also this sort of capturing, of the local government by some states, that at the end of the day, money could come to the states, but maybe doesn't go directly to the local government for such, infrastructures and things done at the local grassroots level. So, because the first place we will notice an impact is at that level, and this is also the first level where you get feedback from, where you can now take to the state government, and state government, if there's a need, can now talk to the federal government. But it's not like that. So what I'm saying in essence is that the money is not trickling down. It's coming, but it's stopping somewhere. So whatever needs to be done for me has to come from the side of the citizens, because you don't expect me. I'm benefiting from Daniel. Daniel always give me something, and you say, "Oh, give your children. Let me give them 20,000 every month," and I don't give them. The only people that can deliver themselves are my children. Me, I will not deliver them. I'll continue. I'll save it for them like my mother saved my own. But if they now find a way to shout out to the extent that people now, what's the problem? Daddy has been holding on to our funds and is not giving it on to us. Maybe there can be some restructuring. That's what I feel concerning this particular issue. More money is coming in, yes, but are these funds actually getting to where they are meant to get to?
I think that is one aspect of also look at. Then another aspect to look at it is what are the expectations really for these states, because the way this has been structured over the longest period. Let's go back to pre-2023. What were states like? They were broke. Mm-hmm. They were owing so much, so much debt. They were not even paying the improved minimum wage then. I think minimum wage was moved from, what was it before? Was it 30K to
33.
33. They were not even, some states were owing months of salaries then. Yeah. So now, fast forward to 2020. Now you said you've doubled their
revenue.
Yeah.
You've doubled their allocations. So these particular states now make more times 2 input, but we've also pushed minimum wage to 70,000, which is more than double of what they were not able to pay before then.
Yeah.
That's one. Number 2, infrastructure. Remember that you did not just remove subsidy, you also devalue the currency.
Yes.
So that means that projects that would have been $1 million, that would have cost $1 million, now is costing way more naira, right, to even accomplish. So you've doubled the allocation, but you've put them in more financial distress by what the monies are. The money is not necessarily solving the problem. So a lot of these states, what you've seen them do is that they've started paying the backlog of debts they were owing before. So you've seen states clear their debt a lot. States now working on how do we even start waking up our economy locally. Meanwhile, the same economy we are waking up locally is down because real sector is not active because of the 2 most important changes in the economy, which is the devaluation of the currency and the subsidy removal. So now, what we are just running is, should we be using this money to just be doing developmental, just be giving them every month maintenance fee? That is what people are, that is what these states are now resulted to. Now, of course, I'm not taking the blame of states that have not been performing even before then, right? It's not like
because
out of 36, it's not like maybe we have 10 or 15 that are even doing anything. But we've seen states that 1 or 2 or 3 states that we can say yes are doing the numbers. We've also seen states that naturally, economic wise, they are activity is tilted towards their states, distribution-wise. Those states normally, right now, are doing more numbers because, yes, if you've increased taxes, you've increased this, it will have an effect on how much money they make, right? So what I'm basically coming to say is that we need to sit down and do a restructuring of our entire fiscal conversation when it comes to states. And it's still at the bulk of the federal government. Why am I saying this? If we want states to be productive at the level we want them to be productive, these allocations has to be directed towards something. If a state cannot generate what it will pay its staff, allocations from federal government should not be what will be used to do that. It should be the state saying, if I'm making 1 billion and 1 billion is what can pay my staff, let me have it. If it's 1,000 people I have, I can do 1 billion. Let it be 1 billion. Let allocation be directly for infrastructural development. Let us know that is what it is meant for, and we should be questioning these guys based on that, because these guys are just running. It's a roller coaster right now. Everybody's just enjoying themselves. When money is coming in, everybody's just enjoying themselves. It's a government that is a system of government that you can't really question. You can't really ask for accountability. So
let me understand this.
So now the Minister of Finance now coming up to say we've done double.
Let me understand this, Daniel, before you're coming.
Yes.
So you are saying that, you know what, let's treat it like businesses.
Yes.
Where, you can have the board say, okay, you're just starting business, so we're going to pay your staff, right? We're going to make sure that, we take over your overhead costs. Yeah. And then 1 year into, they're like, well, can you at least, take over the payment of your staff? And we have had states that they cannot generate, revenue to save themselves, right? They can't pay anybody. So when allocations reduce, you see a lot of salaries being owed, pensions being owed, and things like that. So what you're suggesting is, let's have some sort of fiscal restructuring. I don't know, this might have to go through constitutional amendments, where at the end of the day, whatever funds you're getting that is allocated to you is for your infrastructure development. But you see, your recurrent expenditure should be taken care of by yourself. So generate your revenue to pay your staff. That's what you're suggesting.
Exactly.
Because also, let me also come back to the issue of macroeconomic indices, right? So even if you're telling us now that, they make more money, inflation is an all-time high. So that's cuts away part of whatever you think is the increase they get. You devalued your currency, so that means projects cost more. You've made sure that borrowing costs have increased, so that means that they have to pay more interest rates. So at the end of the day, whatever you think you're giving them in Naira, you are not actually giving them, because everything else has taken over that increase.
I feel that what you're saying is true, maybe 90%. Because I still feel that this is a lot of theory. And some states are not doing all these things. They are just using those funds for everything but what they are meant to use it for. But to buttress what Daniel said, I think we've had this discussion about 2-3 years ago, where I was saying that the whole idea of having a FAC allocation, for me, is a personal opinion, is wrong. And the reason is because you don't reward lack of creativity. If a state cannot fend for itself, it should not be called a state. It's just like Nigeria, for example, we cannot even fend for ourselves. Another country has to come and put spoon in our mouth. Then where is our sovereignty? So I agree that if facts should be shared, it should be shared based on some particular indices. One of them should be IGR, and that IGR, specifically for Nigeria's sake, tax should not be inside. Because you now see states that will tax their citizens to death because they want to increase the IGR and get more. So IGR should be defined. What should be considered IGR for this particular allocation? Number two should be, what's it called? Number two should be the amount, what you actually, how do I put this out? The welfare of your people. Like, what have you been able to do? If you notice in Nigeria and in the tech space, some people have started migrating to some states. I will not mention those states here, because they work remotely. So they don't need to stay anywhere, they can stay everywhere. So they go there because they found out that this particular place has some level of infrastructure that can actually support them, and they are paying cheaper. So if states would be given FAC, it should not be based on population alone, because what you are actually promoting is increase in sexual activities.
Okay.
Not sorry, I'm sorry.
We need to move on from this topic because of time.
Sorry,
yeah.
but
So
let me just round up. Yeah,
yes.
let me round up what I'm trying to say. So there should be some indices, okay, that will be used to reward states that are actually generating something, so that they can do more. And states that are not doing well consistently, there has to be some form of decision on what do we do about a state that for 15 years they've not been able to pay their staff. What do we do about them? So that at the end of the day, you don't reward laziness, you don't reward lack of creativity. You actually, now what will now happen is that everybody will actually want to work and earn their fact. So that governors will know that it is not largesse as usual, it is not enjoyment as usual. You actually work as a governor to develop your state.
And all right, because of time, we need to move on from this topic, Daniel.
Hold on.
One sentence.
One particular issue that also is also security. We've seen a very high level of rural to urban migration.
Yes.
The major hot shots, Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, I've seen a surge in population growth, right? So even when you look at VAT taxes that comes up of those states, they are higher, not because those states are doing way better, but because people are moved to those states. Yeah. And why have they moved? Security is one of those big issues. So now, if you're giving a governor even more FAC allocations, right? But there can't be productivity because the majority of these people that can work have moved away from those states. So you see that the responsibility still lies a lot from the federal government's point of view.
Because they control security.
Exactly, to really work, to really ensure that there is a level playing ground on all sides. We have countries that run what we run. US, for example, runs this also. But there is less power from the center, more power for the states to develop their states. It's more of a competition in quotes. While New York is known for being a commercial hub, there are some other centers that are tech hubs. So that is what we should be getting to. And that has to be a big conversation from the center, less from the state. And that's why I said, no matter how you look at it, no matter how the Minister of Finance is praising it as an achievement, it is not really an achievement because it's just more naira and less effectiveness.
Okay, because of that, I don't know if we can take this, because I wanted us to talk about this new borrowing that Nigeria is embarking on, but we probably are not going to be able to take it because of time. We know that the federal government is planning to increase its borrowing, for the rest of the year, but we also do know that the president said that they've been able to, surpass their revenue target. But like I said, we will do this on Thursday, so stay with Rapid TV. We have, the news coming up on the other side of the hour. Thank you so much to my guests for coming on the program for today, and I will see you on Thursday.